Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a companion video. Now, every day on the John Campea Show in the mornings and on Open Mic in the afternoons, we take a bunch of live questions, but we don't always have time to get to all of them. So what I do is I take those questions we didn't have time for, and I put them over in a pile to be used on the companion video so that you guys know, even if you send in a question that doesn't have time to get to, it will get answered in a video. Now, because of Comic-Con and some other things that have been going on in life that I'm sure you guys are well aware of, I'm really behind on getting caught up on these companion video stuff. So we're going to get at least through the first chunk of those companion video questions that we've got here today. So let's get things started talking about movies. All right, starting off with this. Sid Vicious writes, do you think Black Panther deserves a Best Picture nomination, even if we consider movies so far? It feels like a commercial movie, people overreacting. I don't know. Well, first of all, I think it's a misnomer to say it's an either or. Something's either a commercial movie or it's an artistic movie. They can be both. They can be both. Black Panther's a wonderful movie. It is a great movie. Will it get nominated for Best Picture? I don't think so. Let's put it this way. I don't think it should be. Now, if we were talking about if the Oscars were today, like even if we consider movies so far, if we're nominating 5 films, then Black Panther doesn't get a nomination for Best Picture from me. If we are doing what the Academy doesn't have like 8, 9, or 10 nominees, then yes, Black Panther, because basically we're asking, would we say that Black Panther's in the top 8 movies so far this year? I would say yes, it is in the top 8. I don't know that it's in the top 5 right now, but it's definitely in the top 8. Now, will it still be in that top 8 come the end of the year when all these other Oscar, kind of bait films come out, these Oscar caliber films come out? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. It is a commercial movie, sure, but it's also very, very good. It's a very good movie. So me, myself, I don't think I would see it getting nominated for Best Picture, but the Academy, it depends. If it hit them the right way, you're going to see it nominated. So I don't think people are overreacting. I think it's a solid movie and people are giving it its due. But then again, I don't hear a lot of people saying, oh, it's the greatest movie of all time. So I don't see personally a lot of people overreacting to it. I think people are saying it's an excellent movie. I agree it's an excellent movie. Top 5 so far this year? No, probably not. Will it be nominated for Best Picture? Maybe not, but maybe it will. We'll just have to wait and see. It's possible. It's possible. All right. Next one comes to us from Emily Watches Movies, who writes, I've started a Coen Brothers watch with Blood Simple, Raising Arizona, and Miller's Crossing. What are your thoughts on their works and your favorite? Well, they're like any other filmmakers. They have good and bad, but most of their stuff is good. My favorites of theirs would go kind of stereotypical, like No Country for Old Men. Amazing. Fargo, amazing. The one dark horse I have of the Coen Brothers is a little film that honestly a lot of people don't like. And it's one of my favorites that they've done. Actually, a lot of people really don't like this, but I do. I think it came out in 2004. It's Tom Hanks' Lady Killers. It's got J.K. Simmons in it as well. I'm unapologetic about that. I really like Lady Killers. I think Lady Killers is actually a pretty damn good movie. Now, I don't put it up there with No Country for Old Men or Fargo, but honestly, it's probably my top 5 favorite Coen Brothers films. So yeah, those are some of the ones that jump to my mind at any rate. Okay, let's see. Miles Pardo writes, Commodus is an underrated movie villain. You know what? I agree. Because inasmuch as, and for those of you who don't know, Commodus is the villain in Gladiator, played by Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix, who, by the way, got nominated for Best Supporting Actor for that role. Anyway, in as much as people say, oh my gosh, Joaquin Phoenix was great in that and Commodus is such a great villain, but he's never talked about. We never talk about Commodus when we talk about the great movie villains. And I think he is a top 20, top 25, maybe top 25. I think he's a top 25 movie villain. I think he is amazing because he's got all the great elements of great villains. Number one, there's just a pinch of empathy for him because you kind of get why he feels a little dissed. Okay, we get a little, so just put in a dash of empathy. On top of that, a wild temper. On top of that, the power to go along with the temper. There's just so much and a little bit of madness that just makes him a really compelling, terrifying antagonist for a film. And you're right, I think we don't give that character enough credit. I mean, I think Gladiator in and of itself doesn't get enough credit for just how good it was. I mean, it won the Academy Award for Best Picture, so clearly got a lot of recognition. But I think Gladiator is magnificent, and I think Commodus, I think you're right, Miles. I think he's an underrated villain. All right, Cash SB writes, I can't take Henry Cavill serious as Superman anymore after his Me Too comment. Oh, get over it, Cupcake. Sick of normal guys undermining Me Too because a celeb they like is a deviant. Cavill's comment only exasperate these lames. Okay, first of all, just let me say this. All due respect, Cash, to you. All due respect. One of my biggest pet peeves from movie fans is when a celebrity gets cornered by an interviewer who asks them a random question and they just have to say kind of whatever off the top of their head. So like so many people treat these answers that get given by celebrities as if the celebrity sat down, thought about it, wrote it out, made a public statement about it. Look, he was being interviewed. He had a question thrown at him. All Cavill said, when you really break it down, all Cavill said was something that was absolute common sense, which was, look, I got to be careful because maybe I don't realize I'm acting in an inappropriate way. And with the way the climate and temperature is today, especially him being a celebrity when he's got a target painted on him, he goes, I'm nervous about approaching women. I hesitate approaching women or talking to women or flirting, things like that, because like maybe what you think is just flirting to somebody else is overly aggressive. Look, that's basically all he was saying. The fact that people made such a big deal out of it is just, people say what Cavill said is just mind-boggling and pathetic. No, I think people's reactions to what Henry Cavill said is mind-boggling and ridiculous. He had an off-the-cuff question thrown at him by an interviewer. He just kind of gave an answer off the cuff, and part of his answer was expressing something that is common sense. Because I'm not a celebrity, and if I was single these days, I would be extremely, hyper cautious about how I do or do not approach women. Because guess what, guys? We may think that we've approached women perfectly fine, but maybe to them it's come across as overly aggressive. But we don't know, whatever. But that's all Henry Cavill was saying. So come on, guys, let's get over it. Number one, stop making such a big deal off of answers that celebrities give when they're cornered by, and when I say cornered by, I mean they're in a position with a reporter who just asks them a question off the cuff, and they just say, an unprepared answer. Let's stop reading into so much like that. Secondly, Henry Cavill didn't say anything that was outside the realm of common sense. I think we're way overblowing what he said, to be quite frank with you. So everybody just get off his back. Anyway, that's my feeling about it. Kevin King writes, what's up, John? Love your show. Thank you so much, Kevin. Cinemia never worked for me. I had it 7 weeks, never received a card, and app didn't work. Well, that's unfortunate. A-List works great, though. I'm sorry you've had that thing, because I got to say, first of all, I'm using my A-List now, and it's great. I still have my Cinemia card, and I used it, for instance, a couple weeks ago because I went to go see Sorry to Bother You, but it was at a non-AMC theater, and it was a special advanced screening, so I used my Cinemia card. It worked great. I have had nothing but positive experiences using Cinemia. But you didn't, and that sucks. That's unacceptable. I mean, I get the delay in getting a card, but they rolled out this thing where you didn't even have to use your card, and you're saying that didn't work either? That's unacceptable. So that sucks that you've had that experience, Kevin King. That really does suck. All I can say is that my experience with Cinemia has been very positive. I've had no problems with it. Maybe I just got lucky. But that really sucks that you had that experience, and there's no excuse for it. Centaur24 writes, have you seen Guardians Inferno with the Hoff for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 Blu-ray? For me, it's one of the reasons for Marvel's success. They do not make themselves too seriously. Yeah, I mean, that came out a long time ago. For those of you guys who don't know, it's like this makeshift music video with the cast of Guardians in it. And David Hasselhoff, for some reason, is in there too. And it's this disco theme thing. And it's crazy. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out because it's one of these what the hell am I watching kind of things. But I think you'll get a kick out of it, so you should check it out if you have a chance. All right, next up. In Poor Taste Humor writes, I love that name. I want to make a short film. Can I make money? Oh, no. No, let me rephrase. It's not impossible. It's not impossible to make money with a short film. But it's nearly impossible. It's nearly impossible. Because who's going to give you money for a short film? Who's paying money to watch short films? If you're making a short film, you're making it for the art. You're not making it for money. I mean, it's going to cost you money to make, yes. But if you're making a short film, you're making a short film as a way to tell a story, as a way to, work on your craft, as a way to showcase what you can do. Hey, there are directors who got their big screen breaks because of things they did with short films. As a matter of fact, look at the director for Lights Out. Guy made this short film, Lights Out, got a lot of people's attention, and a studio came along and said, we want to make a feature film version of Lights Out, and we want you to direct it. And now that dude is directing Shazam, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think that's the same guy who's directing Shazam, all from starting with the short film. But I'll tell you what, he didn't make any money off the short film. I think the only way to make money off a short film is like, but John, wouldn't a distributor buy it? Why would a distributor? How's a distributor going to make money? When's the last time you paid money to watch a short film? There you go. So if you make a short film, and that's a great thing to do, but if you got to understand that if you are making a short film, the 99.9% chances that you're making it simply as a way to hone your craft, to get some experience, or to showcase what you can do. I mean, then you can always throw it on YouTube, and if it gets viral, maybe you can make a little bit of money off of YouTube by putting it up there and it goes viral. But honestly, look, the real answer, the practical answer is no. You're not going to make money making short films. You hope you'll get other things from making short films, experience, expertise, honing your craft, something to showcase your work. You get lots of things out of it. Money is just not really one of them. Dylan Trost writes, how do you submit questions before a show starts? Well, I post a show, like the John Campea show and Open Mic. I actually put up the show about an hour before we start. So about an hour before we start the John Campea show or Open Mic, I put up the show page. And then from the show page, the chat board is open. You can just leave in, if you can fire in a question there. So, yeah, just look for the show before it starts. Anytime about an hour before it starts, you should see it published. And if you're a subscriber to the channel, you should see it in your feed. And then you can just go there and enter your question before a show starts, if you wish. Or you can just submit a question after the show begins. Totally up to you, Dylan. Jonas Norden writes, how do actors/studios contracts work? It's not like the actor has to pay the studio if they decide not to fulfill their contract. What's up? Oh, yeah, they do. They'll get sued. Yep. Unless a studio decides to let them off the hook. When you sign that, here's how these contracts work. And look, let me preface this by saying every contract is unique. That's why actors have their lawyers go over the contract because they're not just standard. Every contract is to some degree unique. There's some degree of it is standard, to some degree it's unique. But basically speaking, and again, there are exceptions, but basically speaking, it's this. Let's say I was a Hollywood actor, and I sign a 4-film deal with Paramount to be in the new Transformers series, right? So I am obligated now to appear in the new Transformers 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, I am now obligated to appear in those films. When Paramount's making those films, they call on me to be in it, I got to go be in it. We could put some things in the contract that says, hey, if I happen to be working on another film at the time, you agree to move the shooting date a little bit here and there, whatever. But the bottom line is I got to appear if Paramount calls on me to appear. So I am obligated. However, the studio is not obligated to use me. So let's say I signed this 4-film deal for Transformers 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I'm in 1. And then Paramount decides, you know what? That Campea dude, kind of a crappy actor, which I am. kind of a crappy actor. We should replace him with Pauly Shore. Okay, let's replace him with Pauly Shore. I can't go, but I got a contract. No. The contract only says that I have to appear. The contract doesn't say they got to use me. So, what's Howard's name? The guy who played, why am I forgetting Howard's name? Hold a second. Let me look up something here. I know it's Howard. Iron Man cast. It is Terrence Howard. Thank you. So, for example, Terrence Howard, I believe he had a 3-film deal with the MCU to play Rhodey, to play War Machine, right? So he's in the first Iron Man, and then for whatever reasons, there's lots of stories that go around about it, but for whatever reason, Paramount decides they want to get rid of him and use Don Cheadle in the role instead. Well, guess what? They can do that, because that's how the contract works. But had they decided that they did want Terrence Howard back, Terrence Howard can't just go, nah, I don't feel like it. Too bad. He wouldn't have to come back. And if he decided not to, the studio would be in a position where they could sue him. So yes. So that's why when an actor like Joaquin Phoenix is in talks to play Doctor Strange, ultimately those talks fell apart because he didn't want to sign a long-term deal. He didn't want to put himself on the hook for that many films. He wanted to have a shorter deal. But, the Marvel was like, well, we don't want to have to do 2 movies with you and then suddenly have to renegotiate a contract. We want to sign a longer deal. He said no, deal fell apart, and now Benedict Cumberbatch is our new Doctor Strange. So, yeah, it is. Like, every contract is unique and different, but that's generally a basic gist of how those will work. Okay, let's move on here. Next one comes to us from Devontae Brown, who writes, Zombieland 2 is a go with original cast, says the Hollywood Reporter. Yeah, so that was reported last week that Zombieland 2, they've been talking about this movie forever. They have been talking about doing a Zombieland 2 forever. It kept stalling, couldn't get it going. So then they tried to do a Zombieland TV series, and they did a pilot for Amazon. Amazon decided not to pick it up. So that failed. So then they came back around to this. And now all the cast is back. I think it's Abigail Breslin, Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, Jesse Eisenberg. They're all back. The original director's back, and they're doing a new one. The first one didn't make a ton of money, but actually the first one made very little money, to be honest with you. I think it was right around the $100 million mark or something. Let's just be absolutely sure about that. Let's look it up. Zombieland box office. All right. Made $102 million. Yeah, so it was right around. The first one only made $102 million worldwide. Now, I said on the John Campea show before, I believe there's an opportunity here for Zombieland 2 to maybe do better for a couple of reasons. Number one, Emma Stone is a bigger star today than she ever was before. She's an Academy Award-winning actress now. Woody Harrelson's always hot because he's Woody Harrelson. Jesse Eisenberg, whether you loved or hated him as Lex Luthor, much higher profile guy now than he was. Abigail Breslin's done some good stuff. I mean, and I think the big thing, and people laugh at me when I say this, but I honestly believe this. I think with Walking Dead being on a downward trajectory in popularity, I think people have a little bit more hunger for some fresh zombie stuff. And I can't help but wonder if Zombieland 2 might be the thing to scratch their itch. So, hey, look, this one could flop. It could make like $80 million, whatever. But I think there's the opportunity. I think there's at least potential here for it to make $250 million, which would be a huge improvement on the first one. So whether it will or it won't, we'll have to wait and see. But I think there's potential there for some good stuff to happen. Okay, next up, Andrew Lee writes, although I'm grateful to the MCU for saving Robert Downey Jr. from career oblivion, I was wondering what's your favorite non-Iron Man Robert Downey Jr. role? I lean towards Heart and Souls. For me, it will always be Chaplin. I almost said Chappie. He was not in Chappie. For me, it will always be Chaplin. And that's going back a ways, I know. And maybe it almost feels a little cheap to say that because that's the film that he got his Academy Award nomination for. But he is so good in it. He's so good in Chaplin. Yeah, he's spectacular in it. So I will always go back to that one. That to me is my favorite one that I'll always go to. Obviously, he's done other good things, but he had destroyed his career twice. He destroyed his career because of his own fault. The fact that they took a chance on him for Iron Man is amazing, and it completely saved his career. I don't think any of us are talking about Robert Downey Jr. today if it wasn't for the fact that Jon Favreau convinced his bosses to give Robert Downey Jr. another shot. And the rest, as they say, is cinematic history. All right, next up, Trevor Johnson writes, just saw Legend with Tom Hardy. Wow. How have I not heard of that movie until now? Yeah, so Legend is a really cool little film. It wasn't, I'll be honest with you, it wasn't quite as good as I was hoping. In it, Tom Hardy plays twins. These twin, gangster dudes, right? It's a solid little movie, but I remember when I heard about it and I started reading the synopsis and then I watched the first couple of trailers, I started thinking, oh, this is going to be an Oscar contender. And then I watched it and I liked it. It's a, to me, solid movie. Good little movie. But it didn't come anywhere near to the kind of internal hype I had started building up for it in my head. But the performance of Tom Hardy in it, playing twin brothers, was amazing. It was really good. And if you ever have any doubts about Tom Hardy's range and what he can do, just watch Legend. So yeah, check it out. It's a good, solid little movie. Just not the Oscar contender I was kind of hoping it would be. Let's see. Factual Opinion writes, how long can the Friday the 13th rights battle last? Honestly, I think forever. I think that it could go in perpetuity. But I mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration because at some point courts are going to rule. So at some point, some court somewhere may just finally put down the final verdict and say, look, this. But honestly, I haven't kept up to date with where the standing is right now. I know it's gone back and forth. I know there's been a lot of fighting over it. And what the current status is, to be honest with you, I don't really know. But in theory, these things can drag on for decades. In theory. Until at some point a court just finally says, look, this issue needs to be settled. And there could be some court-ordered stuff to make things happen. But, I mean, really, there is no end in sight as far as I know. But then again, I'm not the best guy to ask because I haven't really been keeping a close eye on it. Okay, Jorge, where do we go? Jorge Maldonado writes, hi, John. First time sending in a super chat. Thanks so much, Jorge. Just saw Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Good, but not great. The first one's still best one, but my question, do you think it will beat Black Panther for number 2 box office this year behind Infinity War? Interesting question. So I personally think Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom's a little bit better than Jurassic World, the first Jurassic World. Nowhere near as good as Jurassic Park, but hey, what are you going to do? That's just my opinion. Jurassic World right now sits at just about 1.2 billion, which is crazy big. So it's like 1.197 billion, something crazy like that. It's 1.2 billion. If memory serves me correctly, Black Panther ended up with 1.34, something like that, $billion. So for argument's sake, let's say right now that Jurassic Park or Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is $140 million behind Black Panther for the number 2 spot in the year. Okay. At this point, I do not think it can catch it. Remember, every week that box office total goes down and down and down and down, and it's still 140 million behind. I think of the North American box office. Let me pull it up here quick. I think of the North American box office this week, I think it made like $10 million. Let me just see if I'm right. $11 million. So next week, it's going to make about $7 million. Does it have enough steam and momentum? And it's already basically open in most of its international markets. Can it get another $140 million to catch Black Panther? I don't think so. I think you're going to see Black Panther firmly still in that number 2 position once Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom leaves theaters. So it's come close. It's come real close. But it's not going to make up that extra, 1.4 or $140 million. It's just too much more for it to climb. So I just don't think it's going to do it. All right, let's see. Next one. Gabe Campbell writes, Logan was by far the best movie of that year. Total snub. Patrick Stewart and Hugh Jackman gave the best performances of their career. I don't think it was a snub. I think the only way you can say snub, I think people throw around the term snub way too easy. And by the way, I also think Logan was the best film of the year. I do. But you can only use the word snub, I believe, when it is beyond any rational argument that all the people and films that did get nominated had no business being nominated. That's just not the case. Especially when you look back at this past year. Like, let me look up 2017 Best Picture nominees. Hold on a second. 2017 Best Picture nominees. And we have... was that 2017? Should that be 18? Let me just... Hold a second. There we go. That's better. So we had Shape of Water. You can't say that one absolutely did not deserve a Best Picture nomination. Darkest Hour absolutely deserved a Best Picture nomination. Dunkirk absolutely deserved a Best Picture nomination. Phantom Thread absolutely deserved a Best Picture nomination. 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri probably should have won the Academy Award, but absolutely deserved. Get Out, iffy, but I don't think you can say definitively didn't deserve it. The Post absolutely deserved a nomination. Call Me By Your Name absolutely deserved a nomination. Lady Bird I thought was trash, but everybody else loved it, so it got a nomination. So I don't know that we can use the word snub unless you can point to 2 or 3 that say those definitely didn't deserve nominations. It's tough, and I think that's the only way you can use the word snub. When it is so clear that obviously there was an agenda to keep something out, and I don't think that's the case here. If that was the case, I mean, Logan wouldn't have gotten a Best Screenplay nomination. And by the way, like, that's probably the 3rd most prestigious Academy Award is Screenplay. The most prestigious one is Best Picture. The next prestigious one is Director. And I think the 3rd most prestigious one is Screenplay. And I think if they had an axe to grind against Logan for some reason, you wouldn't have seen it get a Best Screenplay nomination. That's the Academy saying you're amongst the elite of the films this year. Now, I would have nominated for Best Picture, and I would have given it Best Picture. I honestly don't think... I had no problems with Hugh Jackman not getting nominated because Daniel Day-Lewis deserved his nomination. Timothée Chalamet deserved his nomination. Daniel Kaluuya deserved his nomination. Denzel Washington deserved a nomination. And Gary Oldman deserved a nomination. I would have liked to have seen Hugh Jackman get a nomination, but I really don't have I can't make a snub argument there. Patrick Stewart, on the other hand, that one, let's see, Best Supporting Actor, 2018. Sam Rockwell was incredible in 3 Billboards. Woody Harrelson was incredible in 3 Billboards. Christopher Plummer for All the Money in the World. He was very good, but I didn't know about that. Willem Dafoe for The Florida Project, sure. Richard Jenkins was great in The Shape of Water. But I'm going to tell you what, Patrick Stewart was the best supporting actor that year. It was the best performance of his career in Logan. Patrick Stewart was the best performer. It's Hugh Jackman's movie, yes. And I loved Hugh Jackman in it. But Patrick Stewart was the best performer in that movie. And if there's any argument to be made about snubs, and I don't think there are for any of them, but if there were a real legit argument to be made for a snub argument, if there were, and I don't think there is, but if there were, it's the Patrick Stewart one. That's the one to me that really made me roll my eyes. That's the one I thought he needed to get that Best Supporting Actor nomination. And I am dumbfounded that he didn't get it. Because he is so freaking good in that movie. But hey, it didn't go that way. And that happens all the time. Sometimes the movies we want don't get it. Luna Comics writes, "Call me Bushmaster." The Bushmaster was the only redeeming thing about Luke Cage Season 2. I really can't express how much I was disappointed with Luke Cage Season 2. I was really disappointed with it. And quite frankly, I don't think Luke Cage has been all that good ever since the first half of Season 1. Because after Cottonmouth, leaves the show, it pretty much went downhill. And I was really kind of hoping for a resurgence with season 2, and I just did not like it at all. And I wanted to like it. I was excited about it. And yeah, it just did not work for me, unfortunately. But Bushmaster is probably one of the redeeming things. Murray Reich writes, what can the Bourne franchise improve on? Or their storytelling? The last Bourne movie was terrible. The whole thing about, it's all about social media and online privacy. They tried to get so trendy with it, and it just didn't tell a good story, and it made no sense. Like, the first Bourne movie really hooked you in with the story. There was no story to get hooked into in this one. It was just bad. What they need to do is get back to the basics and just come up with a good story. Let everything else be secondary. Start with your story and then go from there. Like the first Bourne movie. A fishing vessel in the middle of the ocean just finds some dude floating in the middle of the ocean. How did he get there? How is he alive? Boom, who is this guy? Boom, boom, boom. There's your story. They didn't have anything like that for that. It just felt like they, you know what? Everybody wants another Bourne movie. Let's just do another Bourne movie. And I'm sure that's not the case. I'm sure that's not what their philosophy was. But they didn't start with a good story. And that's what I think the Bourne franchise really needs to get back to if they ever make another one. Patrick Conway writes, could Dottie from Agent Carter be mentioned in BW? Guys, I've asked you many times, please do not use abbreviations because I have no idea what BW is, so I don't know what we're talking about. Sorry about that. Geo writes, love how The Office is a comedy that deals with themes of ageism and communicating with people as a powerful tool in today's age. It's amazing writing. Look, seriously, The Office was very almost cunningly intelligent. It wasn't just some silly comedy. It wasn't just some silly comedy. It was deceptively smart. And it did tackle issues like ageism, sexism, things about the workplace, things about just the human condition. They dealt with a lot of stuff, and they did it so deceivingly smart that you didn't even realize watching the show you're engaging in a really intelligent conversation about some pretty big topics while laughing your ass off. I mean, seriously, The Office is just one of the greatest shows ever. And that's just like another reason why it's so good. Good observation, Gio. Chris Cosen writes, do you think we'll see Anakin's, Obi-Wan's, and Yoda's ghosts in any scenes together in Star Wars Episode 9? I want to say yes, but I just don't think so. Like, don't get me wrong. If you really put me against a wall and said over under 15% that we'll see at least one of those Force ghosts, 15% I'll take the over. But like at 50%, I'd probably go, nah, no chance. So I think it's possible. I even wouldn't mind it if they came up with a good purpose for it. Like, don't just throw in Force Ghosts for the sake of having Force Ghosts. Have a narrative purpose for it. I think there's a possibility, but I had to say, if I had to put $5 on it right now, I'd probably guess that, we probably won't see it. But it's possible. Totally possible. Let's wait and see. And final question comes to us from Chris Cosen, who writes, is there any way Warner Brothers / DC can keep Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck to stay as Superman and Batman? Well, as far as right now, there's been no word that Henry Cavill isn't Superman anymore. So I don't know where that's coming from. Ben Affleck, it's a two-pronged problem. Number one, I don't think Ben wants to be there. Number two, I don't think Warner Brothers wants him anymore. I think it's not, I never thought that this situation was ever just Ben just doesn't want to do it. And Warner Brothers has been pleading. I don't think Warner Brothers has been all that thrilled with him either. So, I don't know. It's tough. Now, we've pointed this out before. There is a new sheriff in town with Warner Brothers, and it's Walter Hamada. New leadership in place. I told you guys last month that I had heard that there had been some communication between Walter Hamada and either Ben Affleck or his representation. What that means, who knows? But with new leadership in place, could that change things? Could that fundamentally alter the dynamic of what's been going on in the relationship between Ben Affleck and DC? Maybe. I haven't heard that it has changed, but it's at least to me promising to hear that some communication's been going on. Now, for all we know, it could be communication about how do we announce the exit. I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe it's like, hey, let's have some conversations. Like, I know you and the previous administration, total fallout, but hey, let's see if there's any possibilities here. Let's have a chat. Maybe. Or maybe that's not happening at all and it's just wishful thinking on my part. But we'll just have to kind of wait and see. All right, guys. That will do it for this installment of the companion videos. Don't worry, guys. For those of you who are still waiting on some of your questions to get answered, don't worry. I still have a few more companion videos to go, but we just got the first one knocked out here. Thanks a lot for being here, guys. My name's John Campea, and until our next video, bye-bye.